Hi guys, today I'll be taking a look at the PXN V99, an entry-level force feedback racing wheel from PXN that's compatible with the PS4, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, S and a PC, but it's not PS5 ready. Details are in the description below, including purchasing links. So we'll take a quick look at what's inside the box, go through the main features of each of the components, showing you how well it performs, and I'll give you my first impressions with any pros and cons to give you a better idea if it's worth getting or not. But before I begin, if you're new to the channel, hope you can support me by subscribing and hitting the bell icon to get notified of my next release. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comment section below. In the packaging, you get a user manual, the racing wheel, 2 mounting clamps, a H-pattern shifter, a bag containing a selection of cables, some screws, washers and an Allen key, the wheelbase, a power adapter with a DC connector, and finally the pedals. Taking a closer look at the wheelbase, it's made from plastic and has a metal plate underneath with a matte black finish and a blue stripe across the top. On the front you have a quick release mechanism made of plastic, and you're able to adjust the angle of the wheelbase by removing the screws on either side and reattaching in one of the 3 positions available. Size wise, it's approximately 215mm in length from the quick release point to the back of the wheelbase. The wheelbase does look like a direct drive motor, but it's not, as it works with a dual motor consisting of gears and cogs, and this is what provides the force feedback when racing. It's capable of providing 3 Nm of peak torque, which is more than the Logitech G29, as that provides 2.1 Nm of peak torque. On the back you have your connection ports, which consists of an RJ12 port for the shifter, a switch to change the rotation of the wheel from 900 degrees to 270 degrees, an RJ45 port for the pedals, a DC power input, a USB-A port for connecting your gaming controller when using with a console, and there's a USB cable for connecting to your PC or console. Next, onto the racing wheel. It's round with a 300mm diameter. It's got quite a weighty feel to it, with it covered in a TPR rubber coating with a sweat resistant texture which grips well. The wheel has quite a distinctive 5-spoke design with a metal strip at the top center line that's blue. In the middle you have a metal frame with all your controls that include a home button in the middle, a function button at the bottom, an LED indicator at the top. You have your D-pad buttons on the left and your controller buttons on the right. The paddle shifters on the back are made from metal and consist of 2 paddle shifters and clutch paddles underneath. Paddle shifters have a clicky sound to them when pressing down, whereas the clutch pedals underneath don't have any sound. Connecting up the racing wheel to the wheelbase is simple. You just line up the little plastic nib at the top and screw in the racing wheel to keep it secure. Over to the pedals, they come mounted on a plastic board with PXN branding at the bottom. It comes with an accelerator, brake and clutch pedals, which are all made from plastic, where the pedal plates are adjustable. Underneath it's all blue, and you have some rubber pads to prevent it from slipping on carpet and hard flooring. There's 4 holes that allow you to attach it to a sim frame. All the pedals feel very similar, as there's minimal resistance, so there's not much effort required when pressing them. At the back you have your connection ports. The first is an RJ45 port where the other end connects directly to the wheelbase. Then there's a type C port where the other end plugs directly into a PC, and you'd only use this to enable you to use the pedals independently without the wheelbase. Then there's a small button. There's no mention in the instructions what this is, but I'm guessing it's a reset button. And finally onto the shifter. It's made from plastic with rubber around the knob. It's a H-pattern shifter with 6 gears plus 1 for reverse. To use the reverse gear, all you have to do is push down and then put it into the 6th gear. It has 2 buttons at the top to control the parking brake and 1 for truck simulators to engage the higher gears. It doesn't have any pre-drilled holes for mounting on a sim cockpit, but it does have a clamp for mounting purposes. The cable on the shifter is connected to the back of the wheelbase, and they also provide an additional cable to plug it directly into a PC, so you can also use this independently without the wheelbase. The 2 mounting clamps provided are made from plastic and are used to mount the wheelbase onto a sim cockpit or desk. It's pretty simple to mount onto a desk by lining up the wheelbase onto your desk and attaching the mounting clamps on either side and then screwing it in to hold it in place, and once attached it does feel pretty secure. I've mounted the PXN V99 Wheelbase, pedals and shifter to my sim cockpit from Next Level Racing This is the GT Elite, and my monitor is the LG Ultra Gear 48 GQ900. The setup was simple. I've clamped the wheelbase to the frame using the clamps provided. On the shifter, I've used a mounting clamp underneath to secure it into position, and I've secured the pedals to the frame using the screws provided. I've connected the pedals and shifter to the wheelbase with the cables provided, and that's it, as simple as that. Now let's test this out. I've connected the wheelbase to my Xbox Series X, and you have to plug in your controller to the wheelbase, which is required for this to work with a console. Powering on my Xbox Series X, and the wheel goes through a calibration similar to what you see on the Logitech wheels, where the wheel spins back and forth. So let's test this out with Forza Horizon 5. Driving around, and I've got to say the V99 generally performs well, giving a good amount of feedback of any knocks, bumps, and you can even feel the feedback going around corners. It performs well for an entry-level wheel, giving 3 Nm of torque. The wheel isn't bad at all and does feel good with it being responsive when driving. The buttons are all in easy reach and the paddle shifters work as expected. It also comes with clutch paddles, which is something that's not available on the budget Logitech wheels, but I did find the paddle shifters were a little bit close to the clutch paddles, and with the larger wheel I did find there was a slight amount of flex from the wheel regardless of how tight the wheel was attached to the wheelbase. Moving on to the shifter, and it works fine, allowing you to easily shift through the gears, but if you have big hands you may find it a little bit small. The clamp generally does a good job holding the shifter in place, but it would have been nice if they had some holes to mount it directly onto a sim frame. But worth mentioning, there's also an optional mod kit that allows you to convert the shifter to sequential shifter, but this comes at an additional cost and is not included in the packaging. The pedals work as expected, however they all felt the same with slight variations in tension, which is no surprise as they all work in the same way. It was a shame the brake pedal didn't have a dampener in addition to give a slightly more realistic feel with some resistance behind it, as it just felt like the accelerator and clutch. The clutch has no biting point, which is no surprise, but for an entry-level pedal set it works more than adequately. I've also tested it on a PlayStation 4 playing Gran Turismo 7 and on a PC with Assetto Corsa. The performance on all these platforms was pretty much the same, giving a good experience for an entry-level sim setup. There's also a mobile app available on both Android and iOS that lets you connect to the wheelbase, allowing you to make changes to the force feedback and remap the controls. So in summary, the PXN V99 racing wheel is a good entry-level racing wheel if you're on a limited budget and wanted to race with a wheel which had force feedback. It's an alternative to the budget Logitech wheels, with it having everything you need to get started, including a shifter. Plus it can work with a PC, Xbox and PlayStation 4. With the wheelbase having a quick release system, you do have the ability of switching wheels, but PXN don't offer any additional wheels to allow you to do that at this moment in time. Feedback levels I'd say are on par with what you get with a Logitech wheel. It's a good entry level system for someone looking to get into sim racing or truck simulations, with its low levels of force feedback and a large wheel, plus the fact you don't need to push down hard on the pedals, so it makes it perfect for young kids. Negatives wise, it's not PlayStation 5 compatible, but if you're wondering whether the N5 dongle from PXN could be used to provide the PS5 compatibility, well, PXN don't recommend this as there's a high risk of disconnections. There was a little bit of flex from the wheel and I didn't like the feel of the brake pedal as it just felt the same as the other pedals. But overall, the PXN V99 is a more than adequate entry-level racing wheel to experience sim racing. Nothing amazing, but still good fun. So there you have it, you've come to the end of another video and I hope it's helped anyone thinking of purchasing this. Details are in the description below, including purchasing links, and if you have any questions on this, let me know in the comments below. And for those of you who've got to the end of this video, please leave a comment with V99, as it's awesome to see who's got to the end of my video and hopefully you guys enjoyed it. You can follow me on my socials, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to be notified of my next release. Thanks for viewing and see you in the next one.